My first shirt as a player was actually for, I think it was maybe an under-6 or an under-7 boys team. And I'd been on sort of a summer holiday football camp and been, well, you could call it scouted. I mean, it was just a grassroots team at the time. So scout sounds a bit too official for what it actually was. But I was sort of dogged from there to join one of the local boys football teams, and I trained for a bit with them, and we were actually in a league, and that was my first shirt, and I remember the team name was called Celtic Reds, and I remember feeling so proud to actually have a shirt or have a top that was like part of a team. And so I suppose the only other sort of way that most people would have done that was a school uniform. And of course, that's very boring. And so it felt so exciting at the time. And also being the only girl actually wearing the same clothes as the boys kind of made me feel like I was part of it a bit more than maybe I otherwise would have. And so I still remember actually exactly what that shirt looked like. It was a spin on a Celtic shirt. And so it was a hooped green and white shirt. And it gave me so much joy, and I took such pride in it at the time. Obviously, I would have been wearing, as most people, wearing football shirts and different sports shirts my whole life. But the actual first one that I had a reason to wear and to play, that was quite special. The first kit that I wore as a professional player was for Birmingham. And we were either sponsored by Ligea or Sondico. And I remember at that time, if you went into Sports Direct, you could buy Sondico balls 2 for £5. And so there was a bit of a joke going around, that we were being sponsored by this kit brand. And we were very fortunate at the time to be sponsored by them. We were being sponsored by a brand, where people were just going in, and, it came across as quite, made do. It wasn't like absolute top of the range brand. And at the time, there was not a sense of begrudging, but definitely an idea that it wasn't the absolute best and most expensive kit in the league. And that said, as I look back now, I sort of smile when I think about it, and I think it sort of adds a bit of heritage and a little bit of culture. And so I'm quite glad, actually. I don't think many people can say that they played in a Sondico kit. I'm not even sure if that brand still sort of exists in the way that it did back then. But I have so many fond memories in that kit. What's more important to me is the design of the kit. I think that most kits feel roughly the same. And maybe if I was a bit more design and technology-esque, I'd be able to appreciate the sort of differences a lot more. And certainly as I was growing up, most shirts were worn very baggy anyway, and so the feel of the kit, you couldn't really tell that much of a difference because they were overfitted. Now, as we've got older at the moment, the trend is to wear them quite tight-fitting, and so you do notice if the kit you're wearing is a woman's fit, specially made, or you really notice the different brand differences. But the first thing you see when you see your new kit is what it looks like before you see what it feels like. And I think what it appears to your eye is the same to you as it is to a fan. And so that's something that, feels the same for everyone. And it's just exciting, isn't it? Seeing a kit and going, wow, that's really nice. Absolutely class. Created even more of a buzz around that World Cup than it otherwise would have. And I remember different countries were releasing their kits at different times. And in our clubs, we might be in the changing rooms just about to go out to a training session, and a different country will have released their bespoke strip. And there was certainly a buzz around that. One that I remember really prominently was the Nigerian kit. It kind of had zigzags, green, black and white, I think. And the players seem to take such pride in wearing it, and you can see why when you look at it. And so I think that the design and the aesthetics of football, even though that isn't what decides, whether you win or you lose, it does add a bit of flavour and it does add something special. And I think as years go on, different kits resemble different eras and remind us of different times. And so I know that a lot of them players from the World Cup will always remember them kits, particularly because they were bespoke and probably quite stand out. The shirt that is the most precious to me is the one that I wore for Birmingham in the FA Cup final a couple of years back against City, actually. Ironic, because I'm now a City player, and we lost that day 4-1. And I think that it's quite special and precious because as a young kid, everyone whoever played in the Garden probably dreamt that they would take a penalty at Wembley or they would score a goal. Now, I turned out to be a defender, so neither of them would ever be the case anyway. But that felt like a bit of a full circle or a full loop or something that was fulfilled. I think the most iconic shirt that I have is the shirt that I had as a substitute for the England senior team. I'm not actually capped for them, and so there isn't as much kind of blood, sweat, and tears associated with that shirt as there is when I think about that FA Cup final shirt that I actually wore onto the pitch and played and lost in. And I imagine as I go through my career, the meanings of them shirts will change. Maybe if I get to play in many more finals with City, that FA Cup shirt might not mean as much. So I'm looking forward to seeing how the value of my memories, if you like, change as I get older. But at the moment, those two shirts are definitely the most special.